Good morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Todd Blanche's bid. We're moments away from a critical vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee for the next Attorney General. We'll take you live to Capitol Hill. An arrest is made in connection to those out-of-control wildfires in Washington, where the effort to contain the flames stands right now. A pivotal primary election in Michigan today, what the results could tell us about the future of the Democratic Party. And the first deaths in the parasite outbreak tied to lettuce. The new concerns today about other greens, what you need to know. And good to be with you this busy Tuesday, August 4th. A lot to get to this morning. Let's begin this hour with breaking news on Capitol Hill. We'll see a vote soon on President Trump's nominee for Attorney General. The Senate Judiciary Committee is meeting right now. Todd Blanche is expected to get the majority of votes on the Republican-controlled committee. If that happens, there will be a final vote on his confirmation later this week. It was only yesterday that Senators John Cornyn and Thom Tillis agreed to support Blanche after he put in writing that the controversial anti-weaponization fund is dead. We have team coverage on this story this morning. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez and NBC News senior congressional reporter Scott Wong. Gabe, I want to start with you here. Todd Blanche, he was once the president's personal attorney. Now he could be the attorney general by the end of the week. What does the president want to see from Blanche in this role?
Well, look, Christine, that has been a big question ever since Todd Blanche has been acting attorney general. It is clear that President Trump views the role of the attorney general very differently than many of his predecessors. And yes, Todd Blanche was President Trump's personal lawyer, and the president has demanded loyalty from Todd Blanche. Now, it's been a long road over the past several days with Todd Blanche trying to appease those two Republican holdouts, Senator John Cornyn and Thom Tillis, who, by the way, just spoke right there as this committee is meeting to advance this nomination. You see Amy Klobuchar speaking right now with those live pictures. However, it has been this long road with, over the weekend, Blanche signing this order, putting in writing what these two Republican holdouts had wanted, a guarantee of sorts that this so-called anti-weaponization fund would not move forward. Now, there are still questions from Democrats of whether it is in fact dead, some pointing to the potential for this legal loophole where Todd Blanche signed this order, but in the initial settlement, it was the president's sons as well as his lawyers that had also signed it. So there are very significant questions from skeptics of this order, whether it could be revived at some point. Now, the president was pressed on this yesterday. He said that he had not seen the order that Blanche had signed, however, that he thinks that he's a great guy, Blanche is, and would do very well in this position. But at this point, we do expect Blanche's nomination to move forward. And as you say, he could be confirmed by the full Senate by the end of the week, by the time the Senate moves to its August recess. Christine.
Scott, we've heard from Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member Durbin. Let's listen.
The Justice Department has thrived under his leadership. Among other things, Mr. Blanche has led major successes in thwarting federal program fraud, ending racial discrimination, and restoring the safety of every American.
And what have we learned in the last few weeks when it comes to Todd Blanche? We have learned that simply his word is not enough for most of us, not even for some of my Republican friends.
So, Scott, bring us up to speed on this vote. Where does it stand?
Well, I think those comments illustrate that this will be a party line vote in the Judiciary Committee, 12-10 in favor of Todd Blanche. It very likely will be a party line vote in the full Senate as well. Chuck Grassley has given these members time to explain why they're voting either in favor or against Todd Blanche. He could have moved directly to a vote, but Democrats are focused right now on the fact that Todd Blanche did not adequately protect some of the victims in the Epstein files. He was overseeing the Epstein files and the release of those files, and they are really hammering him on not protecting identities of those victims. One thing that jumped out at me was Tom Tillis, Republican from North Carolina, one of the senators who was holding up the nomination. He said that any sort of weaponization fund should not apply to just Republicans. He said he wants to see the DOJ, not directly targeting Democrats as well, including James Comey, who is obviously involved in this case down in North Carolina regarding the 86-47 seashells case. So that was certainly interesting to me.
Hey, Gabe, Senators Cornyn and Tillis have both acknowledged there are still ways for Blanche or the White House to revive this anti-weaponization fund. This is what they said yesterday about that possibility.
I think he knows that would be a monumental mistake. So I can't predict the future.
Another fund could be created because of the law. And I agree, we should change the law. But those same critics need to realize that these sorts of tools are available to anyone in the White House based on current law.
Gabe, the president has repeatedly said he likes the idea of that fund. Has he indicated he wants to revive it himself?
Now, look, Christine, he has been doubling down on that fund, tripling, quadrupling down, if you will, even defending it yesterday as a way to potentially give some solace to people that he views as being unfairly targeted by the Biden Justice Department, including the possibility of some who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Now, the president has been vague about where the fund plans to go from here. He's defended it, though. Then he comes back and he says that Todd Blanche has said that it will not move forward. It seems to me that the president is really trying to advance the nomination of Todd Blanche and not really focusing on whether he wants to revive the fund or not. But when he's asked, he has defended it time and time again. And that is giving the critics of the fund and Democrats and even some skeptical Republicans ammunition to perhaps think that it could be revived. However, Todd Blanche has put it in writing, and that apparently is enough for both Cornyn and Tillis to vote to move him forward.
All right, we'll continue to follow this as it happens today. Scott Wong and Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much. Now to Spokane, Washington, where authorities have arrested a man accused of starting one of the 3 wildfires burning out of control in that area. A 37-year-old Aaron Farnacci was taken into custody yesterday. He is charged with first-degree arson in connection with the Old Trails fire. That's the largest of the 3. Nearly 68,000 people have been forced to evacuate. More than 700 structures have burned to the ground. This is the heart-wrenching moment one man discovered his family's home of 27 years up in flames. All right, joining me now from the front lines in Spokane is NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky. Morgan, what are investigators revealing about the suspect here?
Yeah, we are learning a lot, particularly from the county sheriff, who says that Aaron Farnacci was initially encountered, Christine, just a few hours after this blaze took off that burned this very neighborhood where we're standing. Authorities detained him, briefly questioned him about the fire because witnesses said that he had been described as looking nervous and crouching in the brush close to where the fire originated. On his person at that point in time, Christine, authorities say that they found a butane lighter and waterproof matches. He was released before being brought back into custody without incident by members of a SWAT team yesterday, and he's now being held on $1 million bond, facing arson charges. He is due in court at some point later today, but that's what we know right now. This is a 37-year-old Spokane native. According to authorities, he does have a manslaughter charge on his record dating back into 2012 when he lived in Arizona, but we do anticipate hearing more about that individual. In the meantime, the firefight here is very much ongoing. And I cannot impress upon you enough that that fire that they believe that suspect started has scorched really this entire neighborhood. You can drive for block after block, and the only thing you see here are chimneys left. Christine.
Morgan, I want to play for you now that moment where this man found his family's home up in flames.
That's our house.
Just heartbreaking. What are you hearing from folks on the ground as they're discovering what happened to their neighborhoods?
Well, we've spoken to individuals who have made their way back to find that their home is a total loss, but tens of thousands of people are still waiting to see whether or not their home is still standing or waiting to kind of pick up the pieces because, as we heard from the Spokane mayor say yesterday, there is a abundance of caution right now because of the fear of potential reignition from hot spots in certain areas that have already burned, not to mention the fact that at last check, I believe containment levels on all three of these fires are very close to zero, and they're hoping to make progress today because the temps tomorrow only getting hotter. Christine.
All right, Morgan Chesky, thank you for all your great reporting there in Washington. Joining us now, NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman. Angie, explain to us what kind of conditions the firefighters are facing there as they're trying to get these blazes contained.
Yeah, so we've got, of course, you heard Morgan mentioning the winds. He talked about how dry it is. Those are all the things that are going to go into this kind of worsening here over the coming days. Here's what we've got right now. Notice all of those wildfires currently burning. Over 100 large fires across the continental 48. That's going to leave us with still dealing with some of these the smoke conditions. But in the meantime, this is the area we're specifically worried about as we get through the day today. We've got an elevated risk. What does that mean? It means all of those ingredients that I mentioned are all on the table, especially in this area. Salt Lake City to Aspen, stretching down into portions of northern Arizona and New Mexico, parts of Wyoming included in this, as well as Idaho. We've got the wind gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour. We've got the dry vegetation. No rain in sight, unfortunately, Christine. So this is something that we're going to have to watch for the long haul, along with the increase in those temperatures over the coming days, too.
And air quality is a major concern here as well. How far is all that smoke spreading?
Yeah, so this is going to be something that, especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest, you're going to notice the densest of that smoke kind of centered where you live. But notice, even if you go unhealthy to very unhealthy, that is in place for parts of Washington and Oregon. And even as you look to parts of the Midwest, we're looking at moderate kind of air quality, but the unhealthy and even the unhealthy for sensitive group kind of focused across portions of Idaho, of Washington, of Oregon. 160 for Baker City. You see Boise at 179 for your air quality index. This is going to be something that folks, even if they don't have respiratory issues, need to watch for here through at least today, Christine. But unfortunately, looks like this will be something they're dealing with for coming days.
All right, then, Angie Lastman. Thanks, Angie. All right, it's decision day for voters in 5 states, with all eyes on Michigan, a state with one of the most talked about Senate primaries of the midterms. Democrats Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens are running to put their names on the November ballot. Stevens has the backing of party leaders like Senator Chuck Schumer, while El-Sayed is gaining support from progressives like Bernie Sanders. This is an important race for Democrats to win if they want to regain control of the Senate. Michigan has not had a Republican senator in over 2 decades, but President Trump did win the state over then Vice President Kamala Harris in 2024. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster on the ground for us in Michigan. Shaq, you caught up with Abdul El-Sayed last night. How is he feeling about his chances?
Hi there, Christine. I think he and his campaign are feeling very confident coming into Election Day. His campaign manager telling me flatly that they believe he is the front runner, that he has, in their words, the energy and enthusiasm on their side. I want you to listen to some of the conversation we had just ahead of his final event in Detroit yesterday. What's been your closing message to voters?
I'm just really grateful, and our closing message is the same message we started on. We want to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, pass Medicare for all, because it just shouldn't be this hard to get by in the richest, most powerful country in the world.
One concern, one factor of uncertainty here is the amount of money that has been spent in this race. One analysis suggesting that 80% of the record amount on the Senate Democratic primary has been benefiting Haley Stevens.
And, you know, our colleague Julie Sirkin spoke with Haley Stevens yesterday. Shaq, here's her message for Michigan voters.
I have a record. Michiganders are going to be able to look at it and see that I was chief of staff on the U.S. Auto Rescue, that I've stood up to Donald Trump, that I'm redirecting the $70 billion slush fund to ICE to our local law enforcement and state police who will keep us safe.
Immigration, a big issue for voters there, but Shaq, affordability is too, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I just talked to a voter who said that the cost of living is the top issue. It was the top thing he was thinking about as he was heading to the polls, saying that his raises aren't matching the increase in prices. He said that he just filled up his gas tank and it was, quote, stupid high. So that is a big issue for so many people. But I'll tell you, in this Democratic primary where folks are choosing between Democrats, at least Democratic voters are choosing between Democrats, another issue is who will win in November. That is also something that's top of mind for folks as they head into polls and settle this intra-party dispute between these two candidates.
All right. It says a lot about the conversation happening inside the Democratic Party right now. Shaquille Brewster, thank you so much. And don't miss our live coverage of the midterm primaries tonight. Kristen Welker, Hallie Jackson, Steve Kornacki, along with our team of reporters, kicks off at 9 p.m. on NBC News Now. All right, new questions this morning over the source of the deadly cyclospora outbreak. Health officials are now looking at other leafy greens besides shredded lettuce as the number of cases grows here. In Michigan, 2 people with pre-existing health conditions died after contracting the illness. Both got sick before the voluntary recall of iceberg lettuce linked to the outbreak. There are more than 11,000 cases confirmed in the state. Nearly 200 people are hospitalized. Joining us now is NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson. And Ann, welcome. The HHS Secretary, RFK Jr., he is defending the Trump administration's handling of the outbreak. What is he saying?
Well, you remember way back in July 21st, Christine, that RFK Jr. said that the cyclospora outbreak was under control. It has only grown since then. And so have the questions about the impact of budget cuts on the HHS and what impact those have had on this outbreak. Specifically, people are wondering about the fact that cyclospora no longer has to be reported to the federal government to a surveillance arm called FoodNet. Now, yesterday in an interview with USA Today, Secretary Kennedy took on both issues.
But you don't think like staffing cuts at CDC would have had anything to do with it?
No, they had nothing to do with it. We didn't stop any of this cuts. We had no cuts in our food surveillance system.
Okay. And the FoodNet, there was cut.
The FoodNet was a redundant system, and all the states will tell you that.
Now, cyclospora still has to be reported in 47 states, so it goes to the state. It just doesn't. It's now optional to go to the federal government.
You've been talking to people who have suffered from this illness. What are they telling you about the experience?
It is miserable. They say it is an unpredictable experience. You don't get a lot of warning when you're going to get sick. It leaves you dehydrated, malnourished, exhausted. And when you take those factors and combine them with an underlying health condition, let's say diabetes or heart disease or cancer, it can be a really dangerous combination.
And it's long-lasting. It's not like a 24-hour flu bug that you just sort of work through.
I talked to a woman yesterday who got out of the hospital after 5 days. She's had this for a month. It lasts a very long time. And the other problem, Christine, is that it incubates in your gut for up to 2 weeks. So it's a very difficult disease.
All right. Ann Thompson, thank you, Ann, for that. All right, much more current ahead, including President Trump's fury at his U.S. attorney in D.C., Jeanine Pirro, what we know about her 2-hour meeting at the White House. Plus, the SpaceX rocket on a collision course with the moon, what scientists hope to learn from the high-speed encounter. And later this hour, Ariana Grande speaks out after announcing she is taking a break from the spotlight. What she said about that decision. We'll get you current after the break. A top member of the Trump administration striking a more optimistic tone on talks with Iran. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just put a timestamp on when the Strait of Hormuz could reopen.
I think there is a chance we may have a deal today or tomorrow to open the strait and move towards a more normalized position in this conflict.
Now, that renewed optimism after days of sharp public back and forth between the president and Iranian officials. President Trump blasted Iran's leadership for being, quote, unbelievably duplicitous when Iran denied his claim that new talks were set to begin, even as Trump insisted Iranian officials had privately asked to negotiate. Joining us now from Doha is NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons. And Keir, we have that new word about the reopening of the strait. We still have the back and forth with Iran denying talks are even happening. What's going on?
Yeah, listen, and I think before we all start cheering, I think it's just sobering to note that after all the fighting and all the shouting and all the hyperbole about a new era in this region, we're down really now to negotiations over a stretch of water, a small shipping lane that was open before the war began. That being said, you're right, there are these indications, not least from the Treasury Secretary, that we may well get some kind of a deal announced in the coming hours, maybe coming days. And I had a chance, Christine, to question the spokesman for the Qatari Foreign Ministry here in Doha. Qatar is intimately involved, of course, in these negotiations. And I asked him about the detail, about how these talks are working. Take a listen.
Drafts are always being exchanged. I mean, anybody who's working on the negotiation process in any mediation knows that the tool of the trade is these drafts that keep being circulated. So I won't comment on a specific draft, but I can tell you that language has been drafted on a possible agreement and is being circulated between the parties.
So crucially, what he's alluding to, what he's talking about, is that there is a draft, drafts maybe, but certainly something written down, and that is being passed around. He also signalled that we should pay close attention to the number of phone calls that are happening between capitals. He also said that there is no prospect of the kind of face-to-face meeting that we've seen in Islamabad or in Switzerland with J.D. Vance and his equivalent in Iran.
So, Keir, what happens next? The president has warned Iran's window to make a deal may be closing. And then, of course, there's always the threat of another round of U.S. military action if the president is frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, there is that threat, and there is a big military presence here, a U.S. military presence here. And we said yesterday, didn't we, that we really were, just by the president's own account, on the brink over the weekend of a huge escalation here. That can happen again. I do think that there is a desire by Washington, certainly, to get to some kind of a deal, and by Iran to at least not see that kind of massive escalation. Both sides, of course, are threatening what they'll do if it does escalate. However, Christine, no matter what announcement comes, I think we haven't seen the end of this. I think this is simmering rather than boiling right now as we speak, but could at any moment, kind of heat up again.
All right, Keir Simmons, thanks, Keir, for us in Doha this morning. NBC News has learned artificial intelligence companies will meet at the White House today to review President Trump's executive order on AI. A White House official says President Trump is not expected to attend. Now, that order, remember, was signed in June and establishes a voluntary framework for evaluating these more advanced AI models. What's in the order has not been shared publicly. It's also unclear when companies would start using it or abiding by it. Joining us now, NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor. Yamiche, walk us through what we might learn from today's meeting.
Well, as you said, even though the president is not expected to attend and that this is a staff-level meeting, we are expected to learn a little bit more about how the White House is going to be working with these AI companies to sort of, in some ways, put into place this executive order. Now, the president has said several times that this is a priority for him. He signed this order back in June, but it is going to be not CEOs, but staff-level people from the different companies that are going to be coming here to meet with people from the Office of Cybersecurity and other people at the White House that are focused on this policy. I want to read to you part of what the White House is saying this morning about this meeting. They said, even though the president isn't coming, the president believes America must lead the world in AI without burdening innovators with unnecessary regulation. President Trump is working hand in hand with American industry to strike the right balance between innovation and national security. As AI capabilities increase, new cyber and national security considerations emerge that require coordinated action between the federal government and the private sector. So we expect to know a little bit more about what that coordination is going to be looking like, Christine.
What kind of names are we expected to see there? What companies? AI companies, big tech companies?
So in the past, we've seen the CEOs of a number of big companies like OpenAI, Meta, Google. We expect that some of the staff of those companies are going to be here at the White House. So again, Meta is one of the ones that we've been hearing, Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic. But the White House hasn't put out a list just yet, so we'll be keeping our eye out for exactly who shows up.
Okay, Yamiche Osinder at the White House. Thank you, Yamiche. A D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro paid a visit to the White House after a stunning rebuke from her boss, President Trump. The president says Pirro, a longtime ally, choked by dropping the government's reflecting pool vandalism case. NBC News captured video of Pirro leaving the White House yesterday, carrying a black rolling briefcase with a white box stacked on top. Joining us now, NBC News senior justice reporter Ryan Riley. And Ryan, the president is, he's saying that Pirro just didn't deliver in this case. Here's what he said yesterday.
Instead of going after the people that did it, the judge went after her and went after her department. And I guess she choked. I was disappointed with Jeanine Pirro, really disappointed with Jeanine Pirro. She folded like an umbrella.
Okay, first, can you catch us up on how we got here?
Yeah, what's remarkable about, I think, that Trump statement is that this case was really at the very beginning, and the judge really took no action. I would be highly suspect of the notion that he knew who the judge was in this instance, but like there wasn't any action to be taken so far. The Justice Department chose to walk this case back after they got this additional information from the Interior Department, which showed that there was extensive damage in various areas of the pool, including that one spot where David Hearn allegedly touched the material that was already coming up from the bottom. And there was no way that they were going to be able to prove that this was more than $1,000 worth of damage that he had caused. They had images from before, they had images from after. And as he sort of contended, there was not a difference between what the material that was already coming up looked like before and after he arrived that day. And so this case was going to fail. In fact, I think, there was a lot of surprise here in D.C. that this case had made it past the grand jury to begin with. And the defense team had been making some inquiries about how exactly that came about and had discussed some of the grand jury testimony and suggested perhaps that there had been some coaching of the grand jury witness in this case.
After the president's comments, we saw Jeanine Pirro visit the White House. What do we know about that visit?
Yeah, as you saw there, she was bringing in a lot of documents. Now, of course, we don't know what was inside of that box, but presumably this was related to this case. And there is just a lot of evidence from the Interior Department about the concerns that they had about this for a very long time. That filing from the Justice Department really did go through the timeline here, and from the very beginning was saying how there were issues with the application of this material. It was already coming up. And the other point that they sort of made here is that there was damage right smack dab in the middle of the pool, right? So it wasn't something that people were on the sides pulling up. This was damage in the middle where people wouldn't really have access just from the sides of the pool.
All right, Ryan Riley, thank you so much for that, Ryan. Still ahead, President Trump blasts big oil companies for making too much money off of his war with Iran. He's demanding they lower gasoline prices. Is it really that easy? But first, we're hours away from a SpaceX rocket colliding with the moon. We'll tell you when and where you can see it. More current right after this. All right, we want to go back to Capitol Hill. The vote is taking place right now to move Todd Blanche's nomination to be the next Attorney General out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. We're keeping an eye on this. It looks like they're not having a vote right now. Cory Booker looks as though he is making his remarks there as they're discussing whether Todd Blanche should be Attorney General of the United States. Two Republicans who have been holding out have now agreed that they will vote to advance this from the Senate Judiciary Committee on to the full Senate. Again, that vote has not happened yet. Apologies for that. All right, from a death at an ICE facility to a climber on the Brooklyn Bridge, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. We begin in New Jersey, where an ICE detainee from El Salvador died in custody at Newark's Delaney Hall. Immigration officials say Edwin Lopez Cornejo experienced a medical emergency and that facility staff called 911. An official cause of death has not been yet determined. Delaney Hall has faced protests over the treatment of ICE detainees. Over 4 million people have lost government food aid since last July. According to government data, participation in SNAP, also known as food stamps, has plunged since President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The bill included major changes to the food assistance program, which the White House said was bloated. And starting in October, states will now have to shell out millions to keep it going. Experts warn the costs could limit SNAP even more. A naked man who jumped off the iconic Brooklyn Bridge has been arrested and charged. Police say the 44-year-old man climbed to the top, stripped down, and leapt hundreds of feet into the water on Sunday. He was rescued by an NYPD boat, taken to a hospital. He's in stable condition. Now, police say he's facing numerous charges, including reckless endangerment and public lewdness.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff.
You're looking at a SpaceX rocket launch last year. Back then, it sent 2 robotic landers to the moon. Now, a piece of the Falcon 9 rocket is expected to collide with the moon. An overnight crash explosion that will kick up a lunar dust cloud. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello covers space for us and joins us now. The crash explosion kicking up lunar dust, kicking up an awful lot of interest, too, Tom.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, here's the deal. NASA is hoping that we're going to learn a lot more about the moon from this impact. NASA has done this before, right? Back in 2009, it crashed a rocket into the lunar South Pole, and that confirmed the presence of ice. So now SpaceX is going to crash a rocket booster just as NASA is preparing to land astronauts on the moon in just a few years.
It's magnificent. I got a picture of it with the wide lens.
4 months after the world watched the Artemis II crew's spectacular lunar flyby, a piece of space junk is about to slam into the lunar surface at 5,400 miles per hour.
Ignition.
It was January 2025 that a SpaceX rocket sent 2 robotic landers to the moon. Now, as an accidental bonus, the massive rocket booster is getting pulled closer and closer to the moon.
What has happened is essentially a mixture of solar activity and gravity forces have put it on a path towards the moon.
At 2:34 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, that booster will crash into the moon, digging a massive new crater. The expected explosion will send a plume of lunar dirt and dust as high as 60 miles above the lunar surface, which astronomers around the world are eager to examine.
It's a real scientific way of learning more about what the moon's made up of.
Orbiting probes will document the impact, with NASA hoping to learn more about what's under the lunar surface. Artemis 4 astronauts are expected to land on the moon within 2 years. Ultimately, NASA wants to create an Artemis base camp on the moon and use that to go to Mars.
We're learning and building up to doing something extremely hard, being able to operate astronaut crews on a near continuous basis on the lunar surface.
Meanwhile, this upcoming space junk crash underscores a big concern for NASA. There are now more than 130 million pieces of space junk orbiting the Earth. From pieces of rockets and dead satellites to straps and covers, hardware, bolts, and nuts. Last year, a Chinese spaceship with astronauts on board was hit by debris. And all of it poses potential lethal risks to astronauts, other satellites, and humans on Earth as it all re-enters Earth's atmosphere. Yeah, listen to this. The amount of space junk is expected to double in less than 50 years. There are proposals out there to declutter space of all that debris, but it's a very big, challenging problem, right? And expensive. The European Space Agency has a plan to launch a chaser satellite with robotic arms to grab and deorbit at least one large rocket adapter, but other plans include using nets, magnetic towing. It comes down to who wants to pay for a big, expensive operation. Back to you, Christine.
All right. It is still cool. It's very cool. Yeah. Tom Costello. Thanks, Tom. Let's bring in astronomer and space scientist Dr. Emily Rice. Emily, are we going to be able to see this with the naked eye, or is this, it's going to be more than my binoculars? I'm going to have a pretty good telescope.
Yeah, I think this is not going to be visible to the general public with a big telescope. But we don't know, ultimately. That's one of the cool things about this, is that we don't know exactly where it's going to fall on the moon. We've got a pretty good idea. What's exciting to me is that it's really on the edge of the visible part of the moon. And so that could make it a little bit more visible because we won't have the bright moon behind it. We might have the dark space behind it. But until it actually hits, we won't know for sure exactly how bright it's going to be. But a lot of people will be watching.
That's why everyone's so excited just to see what's going to happen. You know, space junk hitting the moon. I mean, it sounds like a bad thing, but I mean, scientists are really excited about what they could learn from this. What are they hoping to find out?
Yeah, this is actually really, really useful. It's something that if we plan to do it, it would cost a lot of money. We're getting it for free because it's a little bit of an accident. And so it's really exciting for us. We could learn a lot more about the surface of the moon, depending on exactly where it falls, how bright the ejecta are, how far it goes, how much we can see. We don't know. It's kind of surprising to me always how little we know about the moon. The exact composition, how much water might be under the surface, exactly what kind of light the surface is like in different places. We have an orbiter around it. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter operated by NASA will be looking at this very, very closely. But up until now, we've only really in detail looked at very limited places on the moon. And so this will add another big kind of data point to our understanding of the surface of the moon.
I think I was a little surprised. Tom was telling us just how much space junk is up there. I mean, we've been launching metal into space for, decades, since the 60s. Should we be concerned about, risks going forward to Earth from all that stuff flying around?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of the space junk is in low Earth orbit. Because most of the stuff stays close to Earth, not a lot has gone to the moon. And so this is pretty unusual for something like this to be able to hit the moon. But yeah, in low Earth orbit, there's a lot more stuff, and it can be really dangerous. Even something very, very small, like a centimeter or so at these speeds can impact and damage sensitive equipment that is operational in orbit. But we kind of track the biggest pieces. We know where they are. We try to follow them and see if things change. But things are always a little bit unpredictable. We talk about space weather because it is like weather, where it's just uncertain what the sun is doing on a minute time scale even. And so this can have different impacts on the objects in low Earth orbit. There was the spacecraft that even just a few months ago is lowering its altitude, and the recent rescue mission to boost it up launched just back in July, I think. And so there's a lot going on. We do have to track it. We do have to do our best to declutter it, use more reusable things, and try to keep our area of space clean.
All right. Well, we'll be watching tonight for sure. Dr. Emily Rice, thank you so much. Coming up, a new look at the economy through the Golden Arches. What McDonald's reveals about how families are spending their money. And our first edition of the Romans Report will dive deep into housing and tell you which American cities are a buyer's market. We'll get you current after this. From a new lawsuit against President Trump's tariffs to your morning market check, let's get you financially current this morning. 25 states are suing the Trump administration over its latest tariffs, arguing they're attempting to replace tariffs already struck down by the Supreme Court. Last month, the White House announced double-digit levies against 59 countries and the European Union, claiming they had not done enough to crack down on forced labor practices in their imports. Let's check in on what you're seeing at the pump right now. Oil prices ticking lower here, dipping below $80 a barrel this morning. The national average for a gallon of regular still higher than $4 a gallon. Let's now get a check on the markets this Tuesday morning. All major averages pointing higher this morning. The Dow hitting record highs, up more than 700 points right now. All right, we have a new look at the U.S. economy this morning through the Golden Arches. McDonald's just reported a slowdown in sales growth for the fast food giant, reflecting flashing economic warning signs that American anxieties are real and that many people are being more cautious with their spending as those gas prices remain high. Joining me now is NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. What does this say, about gas prices and economic anxiety when you look at what's happening at the Golden Arches?
Well, it tells us that there's pressure on the average American consumer when you consider that McDonald's is kind of one of your mainstays in American culture to try to get value. But it seems like Americans might not be getting that right now when you take a look at this earnings report, which showed that in the last quarter, sales were only up 0.8%. To your point, that's a slowdown from the 2.5% that we saw in the same quarter a year ago. So what attributed to that? First off, McDonald's is acknowledging this. Chris Kempczinski, the CEO, said that they made a big management change. They replaced the head of operations here in the U.S. They're now installing Skye Anderson as the new person, replacing Joe Erlinger. So they clearly want to do this turnaround story. I think price is the big story. You have value that matters a lot in this K-shaped economy, where the bottom, percentile of this economy is really trying to make ends meet. And they said value menu implementation is going to be a priority. They said only 60 to 65% of their system, which is very franchise focused, implemented their dollar menu, or rather the $3 menu this quarter, which means that they really want to try to prioritize and fix that to get that value to consumers in the next quarter.
Those consumers are really sensitive to higher prices and higher gas prices. Speaking of higher gas prices, the president has been attacking the big oil companies, saying they need to lower prices. And they're making too much money. On the one hand, he's a huge free enterprise guy. On the other hand, he sounds a little like a Democrat when he said this yesterday. Listen.
Chevron, too much money. ExxonMobil, too much money. When you look at one company where they made 12 times what they made the year before, they're going to give some of that back to the public. And they better cut the retail price, the consumer price. Too much money. You're surprised I'm saying it? I'll say it loud and clear. I'm not happy about it.
It sounds like a windfall profit tax, and that's what Democrats sometimes, or actually really progressive Democrats, talk about. What is the president doing here, you think, by really zeroing in on? I mean, they're making a lot of money because his war with Iran raised energy prices.
That's right. But he's making it very clear. He wants the retailers to lower prices at the pump. But the challenge here is that it's all about supply and demand, especially in oil markets where it's an internationally invoiced commodity. So whatever you pay abroad is going to be the same that you pay here. And when there's a significant development, be it the closure of the Strait of Hormuz or now escalations in the Red Sea, you can't forget about Russia and Ukraine. That makes oil prices go higher, and these retailers just have to deal with that. Now, as far as the margins, that's something that progressives might say, hey, that sounds pretty good to me. But again, does the government have the ability to tell ExxonMobil, hey, now you just got to offer retail prices at $2.50 a gallon? That's something that's pretty untenable, especially for Republicans that have argued for a free enterprise market for oil.
Also, a lot of the gas stations, your corner gas station, is owned by a small business, not necessarily owned by the big oil companies, right?
Right. And CapEx, which is kind of just a way of saying investments into the business, is extremely expensive.
Yeah. All right. Brian Chung. Thank you, Brian. Nice to see you.
Yep.
Okay, this morning we bring you our very first Romans report, drilling down on issues that affect your kitchen table. Today we focus on the nation's tough housing market, where affordability is a major challenge. Mortgage rates have jumped to the highest in a year, 6.83% for a 30-year fixed-rate loan. But in some American cities, buyers now have the upper hand. Miami and Nashville lead the nation in the most favorable cities for buyers. Real estate firm Redfin found in Nashville there are more than 2 home sellers for every buyer. Redfin says many buyers in Nashville are opting for new homes where the builders are offering actually relatively low mortgage rates and even help with closing costs. And people buying existing homes have more leverage to negotiate with sellers on price. Texas, also favorable for buyers. Cities like Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. Nationwide, Redfin found an estimated 48.5% more sellers than buyers in June. And many homeowners locked into ultra-low mortgage rates. They've been delaying their life changes and moves, but they can't postpone moving forever. That's why more people are now trying to sell. All right, after the break, this huge box office summer is being driven by premium movie theater formats. How 4DX and IMAX are becoming major draws for theaters. And coming up next hour, we take you inside the growing lucrative world of prediction markets, how they work, and the growing calls to regulate them. More current right after this. We are hearing from Ariana Grande for the first time since the megastar announced she is stepping away from the spotlight. Grande paused her concert last night in Chicago to speak directly to fans about that decision. NBC's Emily Aketa joins me now with more on what she revealed. She's at the height of her career. How is she explaining this decision to sort of step out of the spotlight?
Yeah, so a lot of people talking about this. Ariana Grande saying that this is her trying to clear the air in a message she read from her phone so she wouldn't forget, according to the pop star. She explained at her concert she planned her break from the spotlight a long time ago as questions and concerns over her health from the public sweep social media.
Overnight, Ariana Grande speaking out. Addressing fans for the first time after the news that she would be taking a break from public life after her Eternal Sunshine tour.
The announcement that was made yesterday was not a reactive or impulsive thing. A decision that was made from a thoughtful and empowered place.
Earlier yesterday, a representative for Grande saying the pause comes after, quote, endless ongoing public scrutiny. That scrutiny recently centered on growing concerns about the star's health and weight, with images like these emerging and a newly released music video for her song Pedal. The The video showing Grande going through an audition process, including a close-up of notes from a producer commenting on her weight. Some fans have been expressing worry for the star online.
If she's not in a place where she's mentally or physically okay, I hope she can get there.
A source close to Grande tells NBC she performs a very physical show healthily, night after night. And Grande sharing the video and behind-the-scenes shots on her Instagram, receiving support from family. Her mom posting, quote, "You are magnificent, and this video is incredible." Last night, Grande speaking directly to the crowd.
I heard that my fans were worried that negativity was ruining things for me.
Grande has been hugely popular since she was a teenager, something she said has impacted her.
I've been kind of doing this in front of the public and kind of been, a specimen in a petri dish really since I was 16 or 17.
In 2023, directly addressing concerns about her health.
I think we should be gentler and less comfortable commenting on people's bodies. There are many different ways to look healthy and beautiful.
In the years since, Grande has been on multiple press tours and launched her album and tour, but now stepping back, including withdrawing from a London show with her Wicked co-star Jonathan Bailey.
Boundaries still need to be set.
Still, Grande telling her fans she's grateful for them.
And also, this can be and will continue to be the greatest experience of my professional and creative life.
So as for what's next, we know she has 12 more stops on her tour still. And then while she is stepping back, we also know that she's expected to appear in a film, Father-in-Law, from our sister company, Universal Pictures. That is coming out in November. Her rep would not comment on whether she is expected to be a part of that press tour.
She's already shot it.
But she's already shot it. So we'll see how much she is in the public eye related to that. But certainly we hope she finds some peace in stepping away from the public. I mean, she's really been on a run.
She has been. She's been in a spotlight, even before Wicked. So she's a hard worker.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Emily Aketa. Thanks, Emily. Thanks. If you've been on social media lately, it's likely you've seen moviegoers being tossed around in their seats, blasted with wind, even sprayed with fog. It's all part of the 4DX experience. And as premium movie formats boom, NBC's Chloe Melas went to the world's biggest 4DX theater to see what all the hype is about.
I want you to choose me.
As fans embark on their own odysseys to watch Christopher Nolan's latest epic,
we're seeing the Odyssey in 4DX.
The ones brave enough to view the film in 4DX are going viral. 4DX is a multi-sensory theater experience with special effects that fully immerse you in the movie. The world's biggest and busiest 4DX theater is at this Regal Cinema in Times Square, so I had to give it a try.
I'm wondering how wet am I gonna get? Oh my gosh.
Get ready.
Okay, that was wind. Oh, and I just got punched in the back. It's like being on a roller coaster. Oh my God, okay.
We have 2 4DX auditoriums, including the world's largest 4DX, and we are consistently selling out. So the 4DX is an immersive experience, so there's a lot of elements that go into it. You do have some wind nozzles there that could spray.
So these are wind nozzles?
Yes.
Oh, I thought they were buttons. Ooh, okay.
4DX theaters have up to 13 different environmental effects, like snow or fog, from rolling to tickling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one startles people the most.
Yeah.
It takes about 2 weeks for 4DX producers to design the plan for each film. To get the Odyssey right, the team watched the movie at least 10 times, rewatching some scenes more than 100 times to nail the effects. The growing popularity of premium large formats like 4DX comes as movie theaters are rebounding, with this year's domestic box office projected to hit $10 billion for the first time since the pandemic, according to Rentrack. The Odyssey sent fans into a frenzy, desperate for IMAX tickets, and the limited number of IMAX screens creating a traffic jam for studios. The Odyssey blocking Spider-Man Brand New Day from IMAX and Doom Part 3, doing the same to Avengers Doomsday later this year.
Far stronger.
All paving the way for film distributors to embrace IMAX competitors like CJ 4D Plex, the company behind 4DX and ScreenX, which gives moviegoers an extended 270-degree view.
The premium formats has really led the revival of cinema. This year, we're looking in premium formats being up a total of 19%.
While fans can't watch Spider-Man Brand New Day in IMAX, they can watch it in 4DX and ScreenX.
This is the first film that was shot for ScreenX specifically. We had additional cameras on all principle of photography capturing 180-degree spectrum.
Chloe Malas, NBC News.
There's much more news ahead. The next hour of Current starts right now. Good morning. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Christine Romans. Let's get you current. Confirmation vote. Any minute now, we'll have clarity on Todd Blanche's bid to become Attorney General. We're on Capitol Hill with the breaking developments. Fighting the flames. Wildfires expand in Washington state as authorities make an arson arrest tied to one of those fires. Primary preview. Voters in 5 states are heading to the polls in a crucial test of the political mood. We'll take you live to Battleground, Michigan. Betting boom. Americans are using prediction markets to wager on everything from elections to the economy, how lawmakers and regulators are racing to keep up. And good to be with you this Tuesday, August 4th. We've got a lot of news to get to this morning, so let's begin this hour with breaking news on Capitol Hill. Senators on the Judiciary Committee are moments away from voting on President Trump's pick for Attorney General Todd Blanche. We do expect a majority of lawmakers on this committee to advance Blanche's nomination to a final vote in the Senate. That could happen later this week. Blanche has been serving as acting Attorney General since April. He took over when the president fired the previous Attorney General, Pam Bondi. We have team coverage on this story. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez and NBC News senior congressional reporter Scott Wong. Gabe, I'll start with you. We know President Trump and Todd Blanche have a close relationship. Todd Blanche had been his personal attorney. How big of a win would this be, assuming Blanche is confirmed for the president?
Well, certainly, Christine, it would be significant in the eyes of the administration. You mentioned Todd Blanche being President Trump's personal attorney, but also he seems to be the type of attorney general that President Trump has only, dreamt about to this point. He values loyalty significantly, very different than his previous, than his predecessors.
Hey, Gabe, I'm going to have you hold on for just a second. We're hearing from inside the room that they are starting to vote, so we want to take this. Stand by. We want to just watch this as it's happening.
No.
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 Mr. Booker.
No.
Mr. Padilla.
No.
Mr. Welch.
No.
Mr. Schiff.
No.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
The nomination will be favorably reported. Before we adjourn, I have some letters I want to put in the record from, well, I'm not going to bother to read it. It's not worth reading at this point. The meeting's adjourned.
And that's a wrap of that. It looks like Democrats said no, Republicans said yes, and it moves on to the Senate. Scott, I'm going to bring you in here quickly. What stands out to you from the hearing today?
Well, Grassley gave everyone a chance to say their piece. I think we knew where this was headed, a party line vote, 12-10, with Republicans winning the day. What happens at this point is the nomination gets advanced to the Senate floor. We know that leadership, John Thune specifically, has wanted to get Todd Blanche confirmed by the end of this week before the Senate adjourns for its long summer recess. They're not slated to be back after this week until September. And so there was a very big sense of urgency that they needed to get Todd Blanche confirmed this week as soon as possible. A number of procedural hurdles will now take place. There will be debate in the Senate. There is a threat of forcing the senators to work into the weekend in order to get this done in other Senate business. But a lot of senators don't want to work into the weekend, so we expect that there could be some sort of an agreement between the 100 senators to sort of speed things along. We are expecting, I think, a confirmation vote on the Senate floor by Friday.
All right, so Gabe, let's talk about how we got here. Todd Blanche cut a deal with 2 Republican holdout senators to drop this anti-weaponization fund, or to promise that they would. Where does the president land on this?
Well, look, the president over the last several days has vouched for Todd Blanche. Yesterday, when he was pressed about this order that Blanche had signed over the weekend appeasing Senator Cornyn and Tillis, the president said he hadn't really looked at it. So he's been kind of downplaying any concessions here. And you heard Democrats on that committee reference that during their speeches this morning. They're arguing that there is no guarantee, even with that written order, that this so-called anti-weaponization fund is in fact dead, or that it couldn't be revived, or that there could be a legal loophole that would allow it to be revived, and that would also allow the Trump family to enjoy favorable tax protections, which some Democrats are calling immunity. And they're referring to this anti-weaponization fund as a slush fund that could be used to help the president's political allies. Now, the president, for his part, again, he hasn't said that the weaponization fund would be revived, but he has defended the fund in general repeatedly, even saying yesterday that he believes it's a good idea, that it could give solace to people who he thinks were unfairly targeted by the Biden administration. So Democrats, as you just heard there from several of them on that committee, they are arguing that they're extremely skeptical that this weaponization fund won't be revived, Christine.
And Gabe, just quickly, I want to kind of translate. I think a lot of people hear that mouthful, anti-weaponization fund, and they've heard it so much in the past weeks. This is something that 2 Republican senators, at least, and a lot of Democrats say would be taxpayer money that would pay people like the January 6th rioters, put taxpayer money in their pockets, and people who are Trump allies. That was what the distasteful part of it was here, that caused at least 2 senators to ask for a guarantee this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's right. This fund was created as part of a settlement between the president and the Department of Justice over an IRS lawsuit that had been pending. The president, again, had argued that since he was unfairly targeted, in his view, by the Biden Justice Department, that there were many others who were also targeted, in his view, and that they should be compensated if they submitted those claims. Now, that got a lot of backlash, outrage, not just from Democrats, but also from some Republicans, including those Senators Cornyn and Tillis, who have been trying to get Blanche to commit not to move that fund forward. Again, Blanche says it will not, but Democrats think the president at some point might try to revive it.
Now the nomination goes to the full Senate next. Scott Wong, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much, both of you. Now to those devastating wildfires burning out of control. Police announced an arrest in connection with one of the Washington fires. 37-year-old Aaron Farnacci was taken into custody yesterday. He is charged with first-degree arson in connection with the Old Trails fire. That's the largest of the 3 in the Spokane region. Crews are working around the clock to contain these flames. Nearly 68,000 people have been forced to evacuate. More than 700 structures, including homes like this family's, have burned to the ground.
It was the first time I'd seen it since it burned. It seems like it's a nightmare that we're just going to wake up from.
Joining us now from the front lines in Spokane is NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky. Just heart breaks for her and what happened to their home. What are we learning about the suspect in that arson this morning?
Yeah, Christine, Aaron Farnacci expected to be in court at some point later today. He has been in custody for about the past 24 hours or so, and authorities say it's because of at least one charge of arson here tied to that Old Trails fire, and it's that fire in particular that's responsible for burning the neighborhood that we are standing in right now, for burning the very home that Ken and Lisa Anderson, whom you just heard from, lived in for the last 27 years. So it'll be very interesting to see what details come out of this court appearance there. I think something that was very telling, Christine, is the fact that investigators actually detained and questioned Farnacci on Saturday. And in his possession, he had a butane lighter, he had waterproof matches, and witnesses described him appearing nervous, kind of crouching in the brush near where this Old Trails fire originated. And then he was taken into custody without incident by members of a SWAT team at some point yesterday.
What are you hearing from families on the ground who have been forced to evacuate? I mean, 68,000 people.
It is a tough situation for so many in this area because for everyone who's been able to go back and see the little left of their home as Ken and Lisa did, there are still tens of thousands of people in this greater Spokane area that are still abiding by that mandatory evacuation order. There was just having dinner last night, Christine, the waitress can't go back home. She's staying with a family member because it is in one of these neighborhoods that is still cut off out of precaution of potential hotspots reigniting. And when you look at the little to no containment that crews have been able to put on these 3 different fires, not because they're not working hard, but simply because of weather conditions, because of the geography they're battling, this is still a very active firefight. And unfortunately, with the temperature only expected to get hotter in the coming days, there's certainly a bleak feeling on multiple fronts here.
All right, Morgan Chesky, thank you so much. We'll stay on the weather part of that story. Joining me now, NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, any relief in sight here?
Unfortunately, not a whole lot. You heard Morgan just mention, Christine, that we're going to see those temperatures increasing. We don't have a lot of kind of improvement with the other ingredients there that kind of leave us with these conditions. Let's just give you a little bit of a lay of the land. You can see where Spokane is, and these are the fires that are happening near Spokane right now. 0% contained for all 3, Autumn Lane, Fairview, and the Old Trails fire. And we do, of course, have those lighter winds today, but still, again, the potential for more of these fires to start and spread in other locations through the day today as well. There's the kind of all of the west where you see all of the fires, over 100 of them burning at this time, and an area that we're specifically watching for that elevated risk today. So those ingredients that I mentioned, the dry vegetation, the winds, as well as the temperatures, all of that going to be in play anywhere from parts of southern Idaho all the way stretching down into northern New Mexico and Arizona. In this area, we'll likely see wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. So we're concerned about that, of course, again for today.
What about air quality? That's got to be a concern, too.
A big concern, and especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest, where, no surprise, you have all of those really active fires ongoing, Christine. At least unhealthy, if not unhealthy for sensitive groups for a really widespread area. You can see Baker City, Quincy, Spokane, all checking into that unhealthy region. So we do, again, urge folks to not be outside if they have respiratory issues, children, elderly, all those kind of situations. You're going to want to make sure that you have a place to get the fresh air. Or the air conditioning is going to be a key for us today, and we'll likely see this last in the next couple of days, Christine.
All right, Angie Lassman, thank you, Angie. It is decision day for voters in 5 states, including Michigan, one of the most important states for Democrats this year. Former public health official Abdul El Sayed and Congresswoman Haley Stevens are going head-to-head in the Democratic Senate primary. If the party does not win that seat, it would be much harder for Democrats to retake the Senate in the midterms. We have team coverage on this race. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster on the ground for us in Michigan. NBC News chief data analyst Steve Kornacki is here for us. Shaq, let's start with you. You've been speaking with Michigan voters. What are they telling you about this race?
Well, many of them telling me that they feel that this is important. They said they were going to make sure they are out here, that they got their vote in early because they feel the attention, the national attention on this race, and they know the implications, especially that you laid out, especially when you look to November. But some of those voters also telling me that here in Stevens' district, this was a hard fight for them. I want you to listen to 2 people who said while they like Stevens, they ended up voting for El Sayed. Listen to a little bit of what they told me about why.
This is the first time that I've actually gotten to vote for a candidate that excites me.
Really?
Most of the time I feel like I'm forced to vote for Democratic candidates that don't really represent anything I believe in.
Most of the concern was that he is too different from the mainstream, and I think if we continue to have that mentality, we will continue to get ourselves into the problems that we're into today.
And I think that speaks to some of the messaging that you've been hearing, especially from the Stevens side. Many of her ads, when you listen to her on the campaign trail, she portrays herself as the safer pick, the more electable pick for, or more electable candidate for November. We know Mike Rogers will be the nominee on the Republican side. One of these 2 Democrats will be meeting him for a debate and for a battle in November.
Shaq, there's a lot of money flowing in this race. You know, more than $70 million has been spent. What are voters saying about that influx of cash?
Well, I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that they are not happy about that at all, that they notice it when watching the television ads. I'll tell you, when I came to Michigan, turned on the TV, you notice the influx of ads. And analysis from Ad Impact actually showed that about 80% of those TV ads out there right now for this Senate Democratic primary are benefiting Haley Stevens. That's something that she's been criticized for as well. We know that her event yesterday, as she was walking into it, there was some interruptions, some hecklers as she was walking in. People upset that one of the super PACs, the biggest spender in this race, is one aligned with AIPAC, that pro-Israeli group. Haley Stevens saying that she is going to fight for Michigan and for all voters, despite who's funding her.
All right, Shaquille Brewster. Thank you so much, Shaquille. Today is also the launch of Data Dive with Steve Kornacki, a new franchise across NBC News, where Steve's going to bring you his signature data-driven analysis and reporting. Of course, some of the biggest races are happening tonight. Steve, what stands out to you in Michigan?
All right, taking a deep look at Michigan here, Democratic primary for U.S. Senate here. The theme of the primary season this year, if you've been watching, you know, in Democratic primaries, far-left candidates, progressive candidates have been pulling off some major and surprising wins. The question here, could there be another one in the offing? Abdul Al-Sayed running far to the left. He's endorsed by some leading Democratic socialist politicians. He says he's not a socialist, but his platform is awfully close. His support base is awfully close. He's running against sort of a traditional establishment candidate here, Congresswoman Haley Stevens. Not been a ton of polling, but that which there is has shown El-Sayed with an advantage coming into this race here. Now, the winner of this primary tonight will face off in the general election against Mike Rogers, the Republican. He nearly won the seat a couple of years ago. And the significance of this primary is look, if El-Sayed does win this thing, is he too far to the left for a state like Michigan that, remember, in 2024, voted for Donald Trump. Trump won it in 2024. He won it in 2016. He lost it in 2020. Trump's 2 for 3 in this state. And that's what makes this so interesting, this primary, because we've talked about the success that the far left candidates have had in other Democratic primaries this year. Those primaries have been in deep blue congressional districts. They've been in deep blue cities like Washington, D.C. That's where that insurgency on the Democratic side has had its success. If El-Sayed wins tonight, it's going to be the first one of these that's in truly swing political territory. And for Democrats who are trying to win back the United States Senate this November, this is right now a Democratic seat. The incumbent is not running for re-election. If the Democrats can't hold on to the Senate seat in Michigan, it's really hard to see how they'd have a path to flipping the control of the United States Senate overall. So really interesting stakes in this race here, Stevens versus El-Sayed on the Democratic side.
All right, Steve, thank you for that. Don't miss our live coverage of the midterm primaries tonight. Hallie Jackson, Kristen Welker, anchor with our team of reporters. It all begins at 9 p.m. on NBC News Now. And for expert analysis and updates on the midterms all season long, scan this QR code and subscribe to the Data Dive with Steve Kornacki. His weekly newsletter will drop every Tuesday. Coming up, the first confirmed deaths tied to the cyclospora outbreak. Dr. Kavita Patel joins us to answer your questions. What's safe, what's not, and what you need to know. Plus, an FBI agent accused of stealing nearly $1 million in crypto from Russia. The reason, according to investigators, quote, frustration. And later, ICE has more than doubled its arrests at U.S. airports. What's driving the sharp increase in enforcement? We'll get you current after the break. Thousands of Americans are still struggling with cyclospora, and making it even more challenging, the source of some of these outbreaks remains unknown. Health officials are investigating other leafy greens besides lettuce as they work to trace potential new sources. And now that the Michigan Health and Human Services Department has reported 2 deaths from the outbreak, you might be wondering what you can do to keep your family safe. Here to help us is NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. And Dr. Patel, health officials are looking at other leafy greens like cilantro as a potential source. Should people just be avoiding these types of greens altogether?
Yeah, Christine, until we understand these sources, I don't think it's over calling it to say, let's avoid these. But then if in fact you do encounter any of this produce, I would make sure, number one, that you know where it's been handled. If you can make sure and you can try to wash it. As you mentioned, it's those small microgreens, things like cilantro, basil, even berries like raspberries. It's really hard to get some of that clean. And we know that it's not just the iceberg lettuce. And that's because the CDC said that it's not, there's so many pockets of cases, as you put up on that map previously, that there must be other sources. So the cautionary kind of approach is not an overcall on this situation.
We've talked about washing and preparing produce. We've heard, wash it vigorously, peel, boil if you need to. Of course, you can't really boil lettuce, but is that still the advice, that you need to clean it or cut away the pathogen, I guess?
Yeah, I'll walk through kind of what I'm doing. That might just help people and what patients are doing. So if I buy iceberg lettuce, I buy the whole head and I'm taking off the outside leaves and still washing the rest of it. But taking off those outer leaves gets, Christine, to really what's at heart. Remember, Cyclospora, a very small microscopic parasite, hard to see. If you're not looking for something, you can't really see it. That's why you got to take off everything. If I'm buying fruit for the kids, I'm trying to focus on things that have a peel, bananas, oranges. And then if they love their berries, so I'm doing that under kind of warm water. I'm also doing it pretty vigorously. Then I'm washing my hands. And then if I'm cutting something, I'm putting it in the fridge for anything I'm not using or eating. So to your point, I think there's ways to stay safe and to eat healthy foods. But I do think that for sure, if you've got some of that lettuce or produce sitting, make sure you look at the back of it, look at the distributor. We're looking for products that you might want to take off the shelves. Most grocers and manufacturers are already doing this, but these are steps that you can take yourself safe. And then the most important thing, if you do have this kind of diarrhea that just doesn't seem to go away after a couple of days or is causing concern, come to an office, come to our clinic, get checked out. We can do a stool test, diagnose, treat, and hopefully prevent any other adverse effects.
That's very good advice, Dr. Kavita Patel. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
All right, it's a case that began with a hunt for Russian crypto criminals and ended with an FBI investigator in handcuffs. According to court documents, the former agent grew frustrated after learning investigators could not legally seize all of a target's cryptocurrency accounts. That's when prosecutors say he took matters into his own hands, stealing nearly $1 million in crypto for himself. NBC legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins me now with the details. Walk us through how investigators say this all went down, Gary.
Yeah, this is a really wild case, Christine. This was an FBI supervisor who, over the past couple of years, was assigned to a cryptocurrency team at the FBI, and he was upset that the FBI wasn't doing more to try to target some of these adversarial countries that have this cryptocurrency attack that are taking money from people like Americans. And so, using FBI resources, he started taking money out of the Russian crypto account himself and putting it not into some government wallet, but his own personal crypto wallet himself. He did this 10 to 12 times, adding up to more than $900,000, according to investigators. And in the last 2 weeks, something changed. He started talking to people, his colleagues and some of his bosses, about the fact that he did this. He said he screwed up. He even filled out an FBI self-report form on the website, and he's cooperating with investigators during the search of his house as well, Christine.
Wow, that is remarkable. So what charges is this former agent facing, and could there be any leniency given that he told the FBI he did it himself?
Yeah, so he is being charged with interstate transportation of goods and receipt of stolen goods. That actually could lead you to up to 10 years in prison if you're convicted of those charges. But you're right. This is sort of a case where the FBI kind of screwed up here, right? And so this does make the FBI look bad that he was able to do something like this. And so certainly because of his transparency and all this, and because he didn't spend $1 of what was in the cryptocurrency, according to investigators, potentially he could avoid some jail time here, Christine.
All right, Gary Grumbach, thank you so much. What a story that is. All right, from attacks on Russian warehouses to the fight over FIFA's leadership, let's get you globally current this morning. Ukrainian strikes hit 3 warehouses across Russia overnight, killing 5 people and injuring at least 10 others. 2 of the warehouses were run by the Wildberries company. That's considered the Amazon of Russia. Ukraine has been stepping up its attacks against the online retail giant in recent weeks. In Greece, more water-dropping helicopters took to the sky this morning in the latest efforts to battle wildfires on the ground. Over the weekend, a mid-air collision between 2 firefighting helicopters left 2 crew members dead. High temperatures are expected in the region this week, making the fight even harder. And FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, facing growing criticism after he said he would not move forward with his controversial plan to sell stakes in the World Cup. Now, the proposal was met with scrutiny from fans and politicians alike, and even some of the soccer world's most influential governing bodies. Infantino is now eyeing re-election for a 4th term as president. After the break, journal entries written by Massachusetts mom Lindsay Clancy were read aloud in court. What prosecutors say they reveal about the day her 3 kids were killed. And the best driver on the road may not be human. What we just learned about Waymo cars and crashes. We have more current right after this. From a new study on robo-taxi safety to growing ICE arrests at airports, let's get you current on the other headlines we're following today. You might be safer in a driverless car. A new study out from a highway safety organization found that Waymo robo-taxis crash less often than humans do by 68%. The study compared how often Waymo and human-operated vehicles reported being involved in crashes in several major cities. And real safety differences may be even larger since humans often skip reporting minor scrapes. A rare tick-borne illness has been confirmed in New York State. Health officials say 3 people came down with rabbit fever on Long Island. Infected ticks spread the disease to people after biting sick rabbits. Doctors say the illness causes high fevers and extreme fatigue and can sometimes be more severe than other tick-related illnesses like Lyme disease. And ICE officers have more than doubled arrests at U.S. airports since last year. A DHS official said officers are making between 20 and 40 arrests at airports every day. Last year, that number was 10. Many of the arrests have drawn backlash recently as videos of confrontations circulate online. Right, new developments in the high-profile Idaho murders case. Brian Kohberger, the man convicted in the killing of 4 college students, is now being represented by a new public defender. He's attempting to take back his guilty plea. The move coincides with a new Netflix docuseries detailing the years-long investigation and the lives of the victims. The younger sister of one of those victims sat down with Today co-host Craig Melvin this morning. Aubrey Gonsalves says she's speaking out about the case as a way to honor her older sister, Kaylee, and another victim, Maddie Mogan, who she says was also like a sister to her.
When everything happened, I was a sophomore in high school. I was only 16 years old, and at the time, I kind of just decided that no words were going to bring back either one of my sisters, so I didn't feel like saying anything. And now that I've gotten older, you know, almost 4 years has passed, I realize still that no words are going to bring back my sisters, but words are what's going to keep their memories alive.
Just breaks your heart. Joining me now, NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett. Laura, the families thought this had been put to rest with a guilty plea and all of this was behind them. How likely is it Kohberger will be able to change his plea?
They sure did, Christina. It's part of what makes this so painful for them is that almost everyone agrees Kohberger stands no real legal chance in getting out of prison in this way. He agreed to plead guilty. He did it in open court, but it doesn't mean that he may not still try in this effort. And now he has some new legal help by his side.
This morning, a new attorney now representing Brian Kohberger as he mounts a long-shot bid to backtrack on his plea deal.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes. Court records now showing a new public defender assigned to Kohberger's case more than a year after he agreed to a plea deal, admitting in open court to killing 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle, in their off-campus home. In handwritten documents filed last week, Kohberger now saying he was convinced to falsely confess by coercion, disinformation, false promises, and the withholding of exculpatory evidence. Also accusing his former public defender of ineffective assistance of counsel and suggesting without evidence that his plea deal was not voluntarily entered because of threats asserted by petitioner's legal counsel. Despite the new attorney, legal experts in Idaho say his new efforts are almost certain to fail.
There is no chance that he's going to end up out of custody on this thing. His claim to be an innocent man is far too little against the mound of evidence against him.
But for Kaylee Gonsalves' sister, who addressed Kohberger directly at his sentencing,
I will call you what you are. Sociopath, psychopath, murderer.
The filing still comes as a shock to the system.
That fact that someone locked behind bars still has the ability to re-victimize their victims. That's something that isn't just very easy to get over.
Moscow Police Department, you're in here now yourself.
Koberger's new legal filing coinciding with the release of Netflix's new 3-part docuseries.
He didn't even have to say their names. That's not enough.
Kaylee's sister Olivia saying the plea wasn't the closure their family needed.
This will never be over for us until the defendant is no longer breathing on this earth.
So, Christine, we reached out to that new public defender for Koberger who said he's still getting up to speed on the case, but it's also highly likely that this petition from Koberger for a new trial just gets resolved by the judge on the written court filings, and instead of going through any actual hearing and putting the family through all of that. We should say we also reached out to his former public defender and the families for the other victims in this case, but have not yet heard back, Christine.
All right, Laura Jarrett. Thanks so much, Laura. Nice to see you. All right, more on the gut-wrenching murder trial of Lindsay Clancy, now in its second week. For the first time, we're hearing from the doctors who treated Clancy right after she allegedly murdered her 3 children.
Did you ask her about her mood that day?
I did ask her mood.
And what did she write?
She wrote horrified. We asked her, how are you feeling? Horrified. And then she wrote down, do I have an attorney? And I said with my team that at this time, we're just getting to know you and getting to know the case.
Excerpts read from Clancy's journal seized in a search warrant reveal she felt she was, quote, drowning every day. The 35-year-old mother is charged with 3 counts of murder and faces life in prison without parole if convicted. Joining us now on set, NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Misty, what does this new, medical testimony add, if anything?
This medical testimony has been critical because, remember, this is treatment that she's receiving days after the killing, so right after. Remember what the critical issue is in this case. What was Lindsay Clancy's mindset when the killings were being done? Was she in a state of psychosis? She couldn't control her actions. She didn't understand right from wrong? Or was it planned and premeditated, as prosecutors have said? Nobody's there with her that day. So it's looking at what's leading up to that act and the aftermath when she's in the hospital, she's being treated, and what are these doctors observing?
A personal journal her personal journal was also entered into evidence today. She said she felt like she was drowning every day. How does that play into this case?
So we saw a lot of entries in this journal. There were some that were undated, and there were some that were really from the 3 months leading up to the killing. So that's a really critical time period of documented mental health issues. What I thought was interesting is that both the prosecutors and the defense were picking entries from that journal and presenting it to the jury. So clearly some thought that some might inure to the benefit of both sides. But how do you get into somebody's head? Well, reading a journal that you can look at that time frame and you can see what they were thinking, what they were penning, well, that's the way to do it.
We are in the second week of this trial. What's next, and who else do you think is going to take the stand?
So there were like 100 and something witnesses on the prosecution's list, and there's 50 on the defense list. So whether or not everybody testifies, it's usually not every single name on that list makes it into the courtroom. But where we haven't even started is with the experts. We're hearing from the treating physicians, psychiatric physicians who were treating, investigators, but we haven't heard from the experts who are going to talk about to the jury what does somebody who's in a state of psychosis look like? Can they present like they're in a good state of mind, or is there something else to look for? So that's going to be that battle of the experts that plays out in court. And Patrick Clancy could also come back to the stand as he's on the defense list as well.
Yeah, he's the husband. We heard from her already this week. All right, thank you so much. Nice to see you, Misty Maris. Coming up, platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket are turning current events into bets. The race to regulate the new world of prediction markets. And rising from the ashes, we're checking in on the Pacific Palisades a year and a half after wildfires ravaged parts of that community. We'll get you current after this. From sports to geopolitical events, prediction markets are becoming an everyday tool for people to place bets on quite literally anything. Even wildfires are fair game. Bloomberg reports markets are trading on natural disasters. Lawmakers are concerned people could take matters into their own hands to, quote, make their bets pay off. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James filed a whopping $36 billion lawsuit against prediction market operator Kalshi. They claim Kalshi's betting markets violate state gambling laws. Joining us now, NBC News business and economy reporter Ali Canal. And Ali, what are the broader implications, I guess, of placing bets on anything? Yeah. I mean, right down from to Taylor Swift's bridesmaids. I mean, people are placing bets on everything.
Everything. And I think it falls into two buckets here. One is ethics, right? Should we be placing bets on wildfires, on natural disasters, on when somebody could die? I mean, these are very deeply personal moments, deeply personal events, and there's that morality question of it all. And then there's market integrity. When you think about market manipulation, insider trading, particularly when it comes to betting on elections, that's a real concern. And we've recently done some reporting where election officials worry that prediction markets could be incentivizing bad actors to interfere in elections, that they could possibly erode the trust in the election system. And Kalshi, meanwhile, says it prohibits people who could manipulate elections from actively trading. They say they monitor consistently for insider trading. But experts have told me it is very difficult to catch them all, so to speak. I mean, these contracts are very thinly traded. There's a lot out there. Like you said, you can bet on pretty much anything and everything. That to go and police this is a very difficult feat. So that's the biggest concern as these platforms gain popularity.
I mean, if somebody wanted to bet on how long this segment will last, there's going to be somebody on the other side of that bet.
Absolutely.
It's remarkable to me. Let's get to this lawsuit against Kalshi. What's in it and how is Kalshi responding?
So this is really the latest chapter in a much bigger fight over who gets to regulate these platforms. Now, New York argues that Kalshi is operating an illegal gambling business without complying with state gambling laws. So this lawsuit is seeking to block Kalshi from operating in the state and is also seeking $36 billion in penalties and restitution. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of money. And you were just seeing on your screen Kalshi's response to all of this. And they're arguing that, look, we're a federally regulated exchange under the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, otherwise known as the CFTC, and that states don't have the legal authority to go and shut down a federally licensed exchange. In fact, in that statement, they called this, quote, political theater of sorts. But New York isn't alone, and that's important to remember here. I mean, we have Massachusetts and Washington, who have both won preliminary injunctions. Michigan has a temporary restraining order in place, and then Kalshi's totally banned in a state like Nevada. So this is across the country, this attack on Kalshi and these prediction markets.
A state like Nevada, which, by the way, is a big actual legalized gambling state, and that would be competition for legalized gambling there. Lawmakers are calling on the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, to crack down on these markets. Where does regulation stand then? Federal regulation.
Yeah, so right now, these are federally regulated exchanges. The CFTC, they call them event-based contracts, not gambling. States like New York, though, say, no, this is gambling. And remember, there's financial incentives here for the states as well, because legal sports books, they pay licensing fees, they pay taxes. A lot of these prediction markets generally do not. So there's a lot of money on the table that's being left for these states, which is a big reason why they're going after these prediction markets. And just today, a federal judge denied the CFTC's emergency request to pause New York's lawsuit, basically saying the agency hadn't shown that it was likely to win or would suffer irreparable harm. So for now, this case in New York continues. And New York has really become the epicenter of all of this because Kalshi is headquartered here.
Okay.
And New York also has a pretty sophisticated legal system, a court system that can handle these types of nuanced, complicated stories that's basically happening in real time. So this could set a precedent. And then experts say this could maybe eventually go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, let's keep following it. I mean, it is just pervasive.
Oh,
it really is. All right. Ali Canal, thank you so much. Nice to see you. All right, we've talked a lot this morning about the wildfires burning in the Pacific Northwest, but further south, survivors of California's deadly Palisades fire, they're still picking up the pieces. More than a year and a half later, that wildfire remains the most destructive in Los Angeles history. Over 20,000 acres charred, thousands of homes and businesses and schools gone. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz takes a look at how the community is working to rise from the ashes.
Well, hey there. Yeah, well, rebuilding after the fires here has been hard and slow. There are signs of progress. Later this month, the popular Palisades Village Mall, which many call the heart of Pacific Palisades, is set to reopen. We sat down with developer Rick Caruso about this turning point moment for the community.
It was a year and a half ago that flames tore through LA's famous Pacific Palisades neighborhood, taking 12 lives and burning more than 6,000 homes and businesses in this idyllic seaside community.
Pacific Palisades, it was like a Norman Rockwell picture. And when the fire hit, the devastation hit, it was so dramatic.
Now, 21 months later, a major milestone in the rebuild.
Does this sound give you so much joy?
So much joy. I get chilled. I mean, really.
After a $100 million investment from developer Rick Caruso, the heart of the town center, the Palisades Village, which survived despite sustaining significant smoke damage, is finally set to reopen.
We took the inside of every store, every restaurant, every apartment down to the studs. We know there's no contaminants. The humbling part of being a part of this is what it means to the community.
It means hope.
Hope for business owners like Amanda Rastegar, whose toy store burned down in the fire and is now one of the mom and pop shops moving in. And Michelle Murphy, who recently opened this gift shop across the street.
If you would have asked us a year and a half ago, there's no way this could be real. You can see it and touch it and feel it now. We're coming back.
And yet, there's still a very long way to go. Out of the thousands of structures destroyed in the Palisades, the city has issued just 35 certificates of occupancy.
This is our home. It's in the process of being rebuilt.
Julianne and Genevieve Bostic say the reopening of the Palisades Village is a small but symbolic step forward.
We can still go to dinner, we can still see our neighbors, we can still enjoy moments versus waiting for it all to be perfect and all to be back.
In fact, their family's favorite restaurant is in the village. It's where they plan to once again celebrate when their daughter starts high school this fall.
What I really believe that will come out of this, more businesses will open. More people will build their homes. Those places where community comes together are the most important.
What message does this send to the community, this reopening?
This community is resilient.
And the official reopening is Saturday, August 15th. That is when 70% of all the businesses there will be operating. And that includes 3 restaurants with James Beard award-winning chefs. So this is not only about bringing joy back to the local community, but also about once again making Pacific Palisades a destination for visitors, too. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thank you so much for that. Turning to the Bahamas, where some travelers got quite the scare when the seaplane they were taking off in crashed in the Caribbean. Officials say the plane hit a dock. NBC News correspondent George Solis shares their story of survival.
New video of a harrowing seaplane crash in the Caribbean. 10 Americans on board a plane that slammed into a dock in the Bahamas as it was trying to take off.
How do we get out?
In this video, recorded by passenger Eloidis Cantillo, the moment the plane makes impact. It was very disarming, he said. Thank goodness I was wearing my seatbelt. It was very horrible. You can hear the desperation from passengers as alarms blare. Bahamian police say the Cessna was attempting to take off Saturday morning when the plane ran into boat traffic, leading the pilot to change course.
Right place, right time, right people, and the rest was in God's hands.
Nick Pavlakis was there on his boat dealership's customer getaway and among the Good Samaritans that raced into action to save lives. Taking us on board the vessel used in the rescue.
Where are the people boarding once they have the opportunity to get to safety?
So some people boarded from the very bow of the boat. Some people boarded back here.
Dramatic images show the plane's wing fully submerged as it began to sink. And this moment as it fully flips upside down.
I pull up to the plane and it's a sound I'll never forget of the glug, glug, glug. And I said, guys, this plane's going down. We got to get everybody off.
10 souls on board.
That's right.
All saved.
All saved.
George Solis, NBC News.
Wow, terrifying. All right, thanks, George. Next, a multi-faith campus in Nebraska trying to bridge religious divides. It's part of our series, 50 States in 50 Days. And show me the money. The iconic Hollywood props and costumes up for grabs. If you have deep enough pockets, we have more current right after this. When you feel overwhelmed by the problems facing the nation, sometimes you just need to turn to your neighbors to find solutions. In our series, 50 States in 50 Days, we're introducing you to people making a difference in their communities. Today, we're heading to Nebraska, home to the only multi-faith campus of its kind in the world. John Chapman from our Omaha affiliate WOWT visited the Tri-Faith Commons to hear how the project bridges religious divides spiritually and physically.
38 acres of diversity make up the Tri-Faith Initiative campus, a Christian church, a mosque, and a synagogue, located on one spot in southwest Omaha.
So one of the interesting things of our shared campus is there is a creek that separates our building. That creek is called Hell's Creek, and yet we built a bridge over it called Abraham's Bridge. So the only way to pass through hell, at least metaphorically speaking, is to walk on a bridge together.
That bridge unites a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim, working together to understand each other.
So yes, do we argue? Absolutely. But the beauty of being neighbors is it also creates the opportunity for us to gather and engage in what I've been calling sacred disagreement.
We cannot ignore one another because we look out of our sanctuaries, out of our offices, and we see our very neighbors. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to experience.
The concept for this unique campus was born from a simple act of kindness.
Was on September 11th, 2001, when a group of Omaha Jews, so concerned for their Muslim neighbors and for any possible reprisal attacks or prejudice attacks that might happen to them in the wake of the terrorist attacks, that they stood guard over a local mosque through the night to keep them safe.
Faith leaders here hope to be an example to the world, teaching lessons that start with our children.
I work particularly with our children and youth, and what a gift it is to be able to watch and hopefully foster relationships between children and youth of different backgrounds and different faiths.
Is almost hate every day. We try our best to bring some peace and to give a message that yes, we can be together, we can work together. We listen to each other, we talk to each other. We again, at the end of the day, we are all human, and we all have the same blood color.
With all the conflict and pain going on in the world, this unique campus in a so-called flyover state might have a simple solution to some very complicated problems.
And that at the end of the day, if we can just let our guard down, listen to one another, hear and share our stories, and truly get to know one another, we can come to understand that no matter what divides us, what brings us together is stronger.
I'm John Chapman for NBC News Now.
That's John Chapman from our affiliate in Omaha. Thank you. From Batman to Harry Potter, Friday the 13th, and Saturday Night Fever, some of Hollywood's most legendary movie props and costumes are about to hit the auction block, and some of the price tags are in the millions. NBC's Michelle Valles has an exclusive look inside the blockbuster sale where rare Hollywood treasures are meeting serious money.
There's some of the most iconic memorabilia in Hollywood history. Michael Keaton's batsuit, the terrifying Jason mask, the golden snitch from Harry Potter. And they're about to go on sale at the end of August. Here in West Hollywood, over 1,700 original film and television costumes, props, and autographed treasures are going up for auction for anyone to buy.
So the movie is Edward Scissorhands. These are the Scissorhands themselves. Star Trek, the original series. Rocky's opponent in the second film is one of the modern horror franchises.
According to Prop Store, the company hosting the auction, the total cost of the items expected to bring in a whopping $10 million. And some items are more rare than others.
Why it's so important when it comes to Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah, you've got trapped in there the mosquito in amber. That is what carries the dino DNA. This piece is used in the very opening of the movie.
What a collector's item. How'd you guys get your hands on this one?
This has been with someone who worked on the film for years.
Really?
Yeah, it's never come to auction before. It's going to be offered for the very first time.
This is one of the most exciting things on collection, Brandon. People are going crazy for this.
This is Travolta's famous white suit from the dancing sequences, specifically in Saturday Night Fever. If I open up the other side of the jacket, you can see it's actually signed.
An inscription.
It says, "To Gene." So here's to a classic, your friend, John Travolta.
The piece has a pre-sale estimate of up to $400,000.
People get excited about that. Is it the nostalgia? Is it the era?
Nostalgia is definitely a big factor, and I think just appreciation. I mean, it's amazing that something like this exists.
You better believe it's a jaw-dropper.
Kita is a memorabilia expert. She says while only a few people can actually afford these objects, the type of buyer is broadening.
It begins with the passionate collector who wants to preserve the golden era of Hollywood and filmmaking. It also has now currently expanded to the alternative investor, someone who wants something for his portfolio that he feels is going to diversify it and increase in value with time.
And in an exclusive for NBC News, we get to share with you the most sought after, highest price item up for auction.
You ready?
Yes. Wow.
It's the stop motion puppet that was used in the 1949 classic Mighty Joe Young.
The 15-inch gorilla, believed to be the only intact one of its kind, helped lay the groundwork for modern-day movie magic.
If you can put yourself in the mindset of 1949 and think, I've never seen an image like that. I've never seen a giant gorilla walking across a film screen. It would have been a pretty special thing.
Its pre-estimate price tag between $1 to $3 million.
Without this process, the stop motion animation process, which isn't really a process that's in wide use anymore, we wouldn't have gotten to things like computer graphics. It's a piece of history.
Michelle Valles, NBC News, Los Angeles.
NBC News Daily is next.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.